Raw is stupid and repetitive. I don't really want to talk about it, but, here we are. It's just a stupid show. It's a profoundly stupid show written by profoundly stupid people. But we'll talk about the show because I guess we have to in a few minutes. First, let's talk about John Cena's return. And we're going to talk about Brian Gerwitz and his comments about WWE's PG era and the profound positive about the PG era. So this is 3 Count Commentaries. I am your host, MagMongoSlade. So let's get into it with John Cena's return. It was announced today, which is August the 21st, that John Cena will return on SmackDown September the 1st. And then the following week, he will be wrestling in India during WWE Superstar Spectacle, which he will be wrestling on the show. There's no word about whether this show is going to be televised or not. I do not believe it will be because it is not on the schedule for Peacock. And somebody actually at Peacock on Twitter to ask if the show is going to be visible. And Peacock said there was no word. So maybe they'll edit the show or something and upload it later, or who knows. But John Cena will be wrestling on that show and he will be on SmackDown. Some people seem to think that he will be wrestling on SmackDown too, but I do not believe that. So, let's talk about John Cena popping up on SmackDown. Interesting, but it also tells you that it might be one of those days that Roman doesn't show up. It seems like they're going to just try to fill any time when Roman's not going to be there. It's a perfect time to let Cena fill in and be the draw for the show. I expect he's going to do something in the ring with LA Knight probably to help him get over. Maybe do something with Austin Theory. Who knows? But I think this mostly is going to be used to build up whatever match he's going to be in India. Now, when it comes to the Indian thing, what should John Cena do? I definitely think it should be like a 6-man tag or a tag team match or something like that. And it should be a match where he wins. Do I think he should wrestle Veer and, Jinder Mahal? No, because I think one of the big issues WWE had with India is, and I think maybe an Indian subscriber told me that these guys are heels. Almost all the Indians are almost always heels. And one of the Indian wrestlers that was on Superstar Spectacle, was just 2 years ago, he talked about that WWE had a difficult time in India because, all the Indian wrestlers are always heels. And even when he was on the show, he was wrestling, I believe, AJ Styles. I forget what the guy's name was, but he was actually a babyface, and he was one of the few Indian babyfaces, and he had to basically fight for it because they wanted him to be a heel too. And that's becoming a running thing with WWE is they want to get into this market, but they have no top Indian babyface. So they have to operate with the babyfaces that they do have, which is, and from my minimal understanding of the Indian market, they're really big fans of Undertaker and Triple H. But those guys are old and retired, so there's not much you can do there. You might be able to get Triple H to do some talking in front of the audience, but that's about it. He's not going to wrestle. Undertaker's also not going to wrestle. So you're in a difficult position here with this Indian audience. So bringing in John Cena is good. Who should John Cena's opponents be? Well, it shouldn't be the Indian guys. He shouldn't be fighting Jinder Mahal and Indus Sher, but something tells me that he might, maybe, I think it should be like a 6-man tag or a tag team match or something. Maybe John Cena and Cody and somebody else. Versus like Austin Theory, Grayson Waller, and somebody else or something like that. And then you could always build that up by having Cena in the ring with Grayson Waller again on SmackDown, or him in the ring with Austin Theory again. Just kind of give those guys the rub. But I didn't really think about that until now, that the Superstar Spectacle, which before they actually had Indian talents on the roster, that they could do stuff with. Now they seem to have released a lot of them. And now they're going over to India with almost no Indian talent. So good luck with that. Unless they got some people in the Performance Center that I don't know about, or they swap Indus Sher babyface just for that time. But if they watch the TV, they know that Indus Sher are heels, and they know that Indus Sher don't matter because they haven't been used on television in weeks. I mean, weeks. I haven't even seen a vignette. I haven't heard from them at all in weeks. So there's no telling what you can do, but they try to give these special shows, but they don't want to do it right. You want to do these special, local friendly shows, but you need to do it right. You need to actually feature talent that is from that area, at least somewhat. Mustafa Ali is of Pakistani descent, which is basically the same as being Indian, but he's a heel too. So you really don't have anything. I know a great deal of Indians are Muslim. So maybe Mustafa Ali is a Muslim and he's a heel. I guess you got Sami Zayn. So I don't know. But John Cena wrestling a Superstar Spectacle was the right thing to do. Bringing John in to get attention to the show is right. That's a smart thing. But not having any baby faces that's from the area that the people can relate to, that speak the language, and you can have fun cultural stuff with them, that's a big miss. The one thing about the Superstar Spectacle from like a couple of years ago was that they did this sort of cross-cultural thing where you had the dancers and all this kind of stuff, and it was kind of fun. I don't know if it'll be the same this year. I know the Superstar Spectacle from several years ago, 2-3 years ago during the pandemic, it was pre-recorded, if I remember correctly. I don't know if it was live in India, but it was pre-recorded in India. And it was a pretty successful show. So maybe they'll do the same thing and do it over there, and then it'll end up over here. But I'm very interested in seeing what they do with John Cena. I think it's going to be some kind of tag team match. I don't think he's going to work a singles match. And I do think he'll win, finally. All right, so Brian Gewirtz, the former head writer of Raw, not Vince Russo, the one who came after Vince Russo, he had something that was pretty profound in terms of the PG era. First, he said he used to get into events about the PG era, about people saying the word damn. And he felt like he got into a slight argument with Vince about the word damn, because Vince doesn't think that damn was PG. It is. It's in the Bible, for Christ's sake. But here's what he had to say about being PG. This is Brian Gewirtz. This was from the Masterman podcast. So he was talking to David Shoemaker and all of these guys. He says, one is obviously the money it's bringing in. The rights deals for the television shows. It's benefited from the fact that even though viewing is just so much more segmented now, with streaming platforms and social media, video games, everything else, and not just in terms of television and rights fees, but the live events, 2 nights of WrestleMania, everything that they wanted, they being in WWE when I was there, is now a reality in real life. He said the respectability that WWE has, PG coinciding with the guest host era and the detractors of that era, but it really planted the roots and the groundwork towards WWE gaining respectability, again, with the advertisers and Hollywood in general, because it made it safe for moms and dads to watch with their kids. Coming off an era where the kids are getting suspended for wearing suck it shirts to school and raising middle fingers and all that, it opened the doors and gained them a lot of respectability. The women's division, it's not even comparable to the way that it was treated and presented in the Attitude Era versus what it is now. It's not that the women in the Attitude Era couldn't do the things that the women are doing today, but the mindset at the time was that audience does not want to see women in cage match or does not want to see a ladder match between the women. And that mindset has done a complete 180. Now it's night and day different and for the better. So his argument is that going PG made WWE a more respectable business and thus really helped with things like advertising and promotions. And you know what? He's not wrong. This has actually been the top argument for keeping WWE PG, is that when you have a show that is full of blood and guts and violence and sex and all this stuff, it appeals to all the teenage boys and all the college age males, the 18 to 24 demographic, but it's off-putting to everyone else. It's the same thing with video games. Video games that appeal to youngish males typically put off oldish males and girls and children that are not fit for children. So when you had that sort of product, you did have a lot of parents groups, and a lot of politicians, etc. Because we talked about this on this channel. If you go to the fan base playlist, you'll find that I did a series of videos talking about how WWE has changed and leading up to the PG era. A lot of the changes began in the late 90s. You had Vince talking to Bob Costas about, children, put your parents to bed, suck it, and is this really good for children and all this kind of stuff. And Vince was sitting in the hot seat trying to come up with an excuse for this, to excuse this, to stand up for his talent. Then you would have various parents groups like the Parents' Rights Council. What was that guy's name? L. Brent Bozell or something like that, who blamed WWF for like a lot of degeneration of children. Then you had a young man who ended up killing his friend, who says that he was just mimicking moves that he saw from The Rock. And then of course you had all the steroid deaths, and the various wrestlers who died young, from Mr. Perfect to Big Boss Man to Bam Bam Bigelow to the guys who killed themselves like Test and Mike Awesome, to the horrible things like Eddie Guerrero, and then of course the big one was Chris Benoit, which of course changed the game completely. So now you have a refocus on things like wellness and the talents, and of course you ended up later on with concussions and those kinds of protocols. And WWE has now started taking all of these things seriously. They've started taking seriously how parents are interacting with the product, how children are interacting with the product. And in doing so, more advertisers are now coming to them saying that wrestling doesn't have to be as trashy as it used to be. Now, of course, it hasn't flipped completely in the way that he's talking about, he being Gerwitz, because there are still going to be some advertisers for which doing business with WWE does not fit their brand. And there's nothing you can do about that. But the big Mattel deal that they had, that is the reason they're going to probably stay PG for the foreseeable future. Mattel is huge in terms of distribution. As far as a family trusted brand, Mattel is huge. Why would they sacrifice that deal just so there could be a little blood on Raw, just so somebody can say the word shit or something like that on Raw? It doesn't really benefit them as much as, and financially, since they're doing well now in terms of attendance and all this kind of stuff and views, it doesn't really even mean TV ratings or anything like that anymore. You see AEW doing all that stuff. These guys are saying the word fuck on television. They're blading on television. They're doing everything except having women with big hooters run around in mud. And it doesn't really work. It doesn't really strike an audience, and it doesn't equate to big business all the time. And I've talked about this on this channel before, how AEW, I look at their commercials, but most importantly, I look at the ad reads on that show. And Excalibur, he talks very fast, but he almost never has to do an ad read. So it's almost as if you're asking, who is paying for this show? WWE constantly, you have different ads being read throughout the show, or people sponsoring the replay, or all this kind of stuff. WWE actually probably has too many commercials during like Monday Night Raw and SmackDown and NXT and stuff. It's probably too many commercials. But that's because a lot of advertisers are interested in the product. AEW has fewer commercials, fewer ad reads, because fewer people are interested in the product. But the product is more inclined to be what most people would enjoy if you're listening to the Attitude Era fans. But then you turn around and it's not quite the same, And you could say, well, that's the 50-year head start. It's possible. But ECW had the same problem. ECW was blood and guts, and they even went as far as to do the sex. And they had a hell of a time getting advertisers. I'm at the part of Ty Gordon's book right now where he's talking about, hey, they chose to pay $3,000 to the Sunshine Network and $3,000 to the Madison Square Garden Network to air in New York and Florida, respectively. And he made this deal based off the idea that Paul Heyman was going to have all these advertisers advertise on ECW. But then he found out that his show, the way that it's put together, ain't exactly attractive to advertisers with the blood and the guts and a lot of the crazy stuff that they was doing. And it's pretty clear to me, as a person who, pays attention, that even on YouTube, you get followed more and you get promoted more if you don't curse and if you make product that is more suitable for children. I had to make the sacrifice when I started the channel to make my channel non-child friendly. So if I would have done the opposite, then I would definitely wouldn't be able to curse, and then I would definitely not be able to express myself as much as I want to. And even now, I censor myself just a little bit. And if you listen to like a Jim Cornette podcast, or maybe even Conan and Disco, you'll hear them actually censoring themselves as they go through each, section. Like the Cornette podcast, they censor for like the first minute or two, because that's really what the algorithm of YouTube is paying attention to. But Disco and Conan, there's censorship all through that thing, because they're trying to make the product more accessible to more people. And they know that if you curse, the more you curse, the less spread your product is. So WWE says, look, we're on network television with SmackDown, and we have a long-running show on Raw. We need to be able to access as many people as possible. And you can do that by staying PG. And it's another one of those things that we talked about before about Nick Khan, when he talked about more money but less reach. He talked about that balance between reach and money, that they might be able to get more money to go to a streaming service, but it'll kill their reach. They won't reach as many people. They'll get paid more though. And they might want to take the pay cut just to maintain the reach, because having access to the product is how people become fans of the product. And PG actually does that too, because it helps. It helps them spread through TikTok and Instagram, which has pretty much the same filters as YouTube. It helps on YouTube quite a bit. Not cursing, not doing a lot of blood and stuff like that. It works across cultural aspects too. So there's a lot of benefits to it. There's a lot more benefits than, you could sell more t-shirts if it's, Suck It, or if you make it more like the NWO. It's like, well, you're being myopic. You can't be myopic and then have like a business mindset. If you want to sit back and observe and analyze the business, you have to look at all of the businesses and what they do. And with the exception of like rap music and some TV shows, extremely vulgar entertainment typically attracts a different audience, and it attracts a different audience of advertiser. And if you want what's called blue chip advertising, which are high level brands to invest in your product, especially for the long term, it needs to be a product that they feel comfortable with. And not everybody feels comfortable with the blood and guts and violence and sex-based product. So people hate the PG era, and I understand that, but it ain't likely to go anywhere anytime soon. I know some people seem to think that once Endeavor buys it, it won't be PG anymore, but there's no good reason why they would change it. I mean, again, WWE prints money right now. Why would they come in and decide, okay, now we want it to be TV-14 and sacrifice a lot of these deals that we've created? You're definitely going to sacrifice being on network television. At TV-14, network TV, SmackDown on Fox, I don't know about that. I don't know how that's going to work. So I don't think so. So a lot of people seem to think that it's going to change when Endeavor buys it. I don't think so. I don't think Endeavor's going to change much at all. Maybe when Vince dies, maybe when the money dries up on being PG, which is what happened in the early 90s when they were mostly PG and creative got stagnant and nothing was hot. They burnt that PG bridge, and then of course the Attitude Era came in and they were forced to grow with their audience. Now they're perfectly okay with people growing out of being wrestling fans or growing out of being WWE fans. because there's always going to be new fans born, but also you could always do little things to attract the people who are lapsed from the past, even though there's nothing you can do for people who are stuck in 30 years ago. I mean, if you're stuck in 1998, then there's nothing that they can do today that's going to impress you or be of any way interested to you. Okay, let's get into Monday Night Raw. Oh, brother, I don't want to talk about Raw. I really don't. I would rather talk about the PG thing all night than talk about Raw. This sucks. Sami Zayn came out, got a massive reaction. I didn't know where they were, but this guy got a massive, 10-minute ovation. It was crazy. He came out speaking French, so I knew they were somewhere in Canada. I thought they was back in Montreal again. I was like, what the hell are you doing in Montreal again? They just left Montreal in February. But it turns out they was in Quebec City, which is 3 hours away, which means basically they're still in Montreal. That's the nearest big city. So then, of course, Judgment Day came out there. Judgment Day. They argued. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens tag team match. Okay. And throughout the night, they argued about who's going to be the partners. It's going to argue. These guys, Finn Balor, Damian Priest, they don't trust each other. In each other's faces, pushing, shoving. Oh, God. And Rhea Ripley, Dominic Mysterio, he's tongue-tied. He doesn't have nothing to say. He's mummy. Oh, you pick mummy. You figure it out. And then Rhea Ripley was all, I tried to tell you guys. You guys need to pick it. Yeah. And then Finn Balor, yeah, and talking to J.D. McDonough. And J.D. McDonough thought that his friendship with Finn Balor could make Judgment Day strong, and Damian Priest don't like him. And Cody Rhodes called him a Funko Pop, and I laughed at that. But and then he had the stupid tag team match in the main event, which of course ended disqualification. And then he had the 6-man tag at the end because, of course, Judgment Day, they didn't get beat yet, so you gotta keep going until they lose, So then they ended up losing. Everybody went home happy, and for 90 straight fucking weeks, we got this disaster. I'm so fucking sick of Judgment Day. All right? Burn this shit. Burn it alive. I'm fucking sick of Judgment Day. All right? Fuck Judgment Day. Fuck them. Let's move on. I don't care about Judgment Day. I'm not going to analyze shit. We moving on. New Day defeated Matt Riddle and Drew McIntyre in a match I did not want to see, did not care about, because New Day, my God, if they could be any more stale, you'll be able to smell them from here. Matt Riddle and Drew McIntyre, they suck. Why are they a tag team? I don't understand it. What is going on here? This fucking big-nosed coward, Triple H, refuses to turn Drew McIntyre heel, knowing that he needs it. For some reason, the Viking Raiders got involved. Oh my God. What is going on with the Viking Raiders? What is his Viking Raiders fetish? Triple H has decided that the Viking Raiders are simply top 5 most important acts in Monday Night Raw. They're on every single week. Every week we have the Viking Raiders. There's people who I have not seen in almost a month. Where the fuck is Bronson Reed? Why did you bring up that kid from NXT? What is the fat kid? What was his name? Fat black kid. You know what I'm talking about. Come on, man. You brought that kid up to Monday Night Raw. You have nothing for him. You have all these people, and you keep managing to materialize the Viking Raiders. Are they poisoning the water, and they're the only guys who can work? These guys get zero reaction. No reaction whatsoever. Every time they come out there, people look like they've never seen them before. They've been on TV every week for like six weeks, and every time people look at them like, who? what? It's not like they're getting used to them. It's just kind of like, oh my God, these guys again. Oh my God, this is such filth. This is such filth and horseshit. Later, New Day gives Drew McIntyre and Matt Riddle their team name, which is McRiddle. And then they start making McDonald's references, talking about how they're loving it. I wanted to kick everybody in their throat. And then, but Drew McIntyre, before all of this happened, he was trying to get out of this match. He was trying to not be partners with Riddle anymore. And Riddle kept pushing for them to be partners because he's Matt Riddle and he's very clingy. This is no good. Again, this is stupid. They need to turn Drew that big nose, fake ass water fountain. He need to go ahead and turn this man heel. He know damn well Drew McIntyre needs to be turned heel by now. What the fuck is he waiting for? What is he waiting for? What is he doing? Why are you doing this to Drew? I mean, come on, man. It's incompetent at this point to bring this guy in here and do this. It's dumb. Dumb as fuck. Oh my God. Viking Raiders. What? They must have got whatever was in Vince McMahon's lockbox. You know, it's got to be some more NDAs in there or something. Must have been some love letters or to, Christy Hemme or something in there. I don't know. Anyway, Shayna Baszler had a vignette. Shayna Baszler's vignette was pretty simple. She says, quote, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." She also said that she's not here to be a hero. She's here to set it all on fire. And then she proceeded to do nothing for the rest of the evening but disappear. They do vignettes for people, which is greatly appreciated, but then you don't feature them at all. Has she been on television since she beat Ronda Rousey? I think she's been on television twice, maybe, since she beat Ronda Rousey. So she ran Ronda Rousey out of WWE and then promptly killed her own push. Great job, everybody. Top-notch work of building up Shayna Baszler to be a top contender. He could have put her on his show to do something. But no. We got to have the Viking Raiders. For Christ's sake, we got to have the Viking Raiders. We got to have Judgment Day main event again. Bitch. Next, Gunther, the Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion, cut a promo backstage, giving Chad Gable some credit, saying that he's a phenomenal athlete, but Chad Gable thinks that his time is his enemy, but it's not. It is his friend, and that Chad Gable will not make a name off of him. Chad Gable then also had a promo in which Otis and Maxine gave him credit for saving their careers and doing good things with their lives, and Chad Gable was finally ready for the biggest match of his life. This was the second match on the show. They built this up for like 3 weeks, and this is the second match on the show. Gunther versus Chad Gable for the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship. Absolute barn burner. These guys killed it. As much as I complained about Chad Gable, being featured as much as he was leading up to this, he is a tremendous athlete. Really good wrestler. He's a little on the short side, but he's showing something in terms of personality and charisma and mic work. He is the kind of guy where you keep showing him, I grumble, but then eventually he wins me over. This match was really good. That back suplex he did on Gunther was nasty. That back suplex was nasty. It looked like he lost track of him a little bit, but it also looked intentional. That's how it's supposed to look. The big finish outside the ring, Gunther is beating that ass, chopping him in the chest. And then Chad Gable German suplex Gunther over the barricade. Now, nobody was paying attention to how long they were outside the ring. Chad Gable slides into the ring and scores a victory by countout. So Gunther is furious at this point because this is the first loss that he's had since he's joined the main roster. Asterisk, because he lost as Walter in Survivor Series, 3 years ago or something like that. But that wasn't Gunther. That was Walter. Anyway, Gunther was furious with this, very upset. The commentary team put over, Chad Gable's miracle win, even though it was by count out, Imperium put pressure on the ring announcer to announce that Gunther was still the Intercontinental Champion, which of course he does. And the crowd boos. But everybody is still very excited for Chad Gable. And this was a perfectly respectable finish because it plays into the time analysis that they've been talking about. First, it was Chad Gable couldn't last 5 minutes. Then he was able to last. Then it was, Gunther lost track of time outside the ring. So it's like Gunther keeps losing track of time because he keeps underestimating Chad Gable. So they're going to probably make it some kind of, Iron Man match maybe between the two of them. Or the best 2 out of 3 falls or something like that. Which could be fun. But as a way of keeping the feud together without Gunther just beating him and that being it, having Chad Gable win by countout was perfect. It was kind of a shitty finish. I know a lot of people don't like countouts and disqualifications. But they're perfectly useful when done right and done in the right proportion. And this one, I think, was the right proportion. Nobody wanted to see Gable lose. Everybody wanted to see him keep going, keep fighting. And this was a good way of getting him over without hurting Gunther too much. I mean, he still lost, but he didn't get pinned. He didn't get submitted. He walked out still the champion. And he bitched. He bitched and he whined backstage. He took his anger out on Giovanni Vinci. Ludwig Kaiser did the same thing. So they're seemingly going to bully Vinci because Gunther lost. But this is a perfect Gunther match. Gunther, if you've been following his career, he seems to have these really awesome matches with guys that he can physically dominate. The matches with A-Kid and Tyler Bates and Pete Dunne and Ilya Dragunov. Guys that he could push around and physically muscle them around. Those are usually his best matches. Because they can always surprise him with a suplex or surprise him with a takedown, surprise him with their ferocity, and they get to show fire in their comeback. And I think Chad Gable did all of that here. I think he checked every box that you'd be looking to check when you're dealing with a guy the size of Gunther and a smaller man. You want the guy to fight from underneath. You want him to have fire. You want the crowd to be with him. You want his offense to look credible. And all of that was top notch. So this was great. Unfortunately, this was the only thing on the show. Well, maybe one other thing on the show that was any fucking good. Next, Shinsuke Nakamura. This was actually very good as well. Shinsuke Nakamura, they did a backstage promo with multiple angles for his face. And they let him cut it in Japanese. And they put it in subtitles. Genius, right? They let him talk in his native language. And they just put it in subtitles. So Nakamura's promo was that Seth Rollins is a man who has it all, but he knows Seth Rollins' weakness, and that's what he whispered to him last week. He knows about Seth Rollins' broken back. And he talked about how, every time Seth hugs his wife, he's in pain. Every time he lifts his child, he's in pain. He lives his life every day filled with pain, and he knows that Nakamura can break him. And he says that both he and Seth live by a code, and it's a code that Seth has etched into his back. And he said it's the same back that's failing him. Then he says he hopes Seth is truly satisfied. But Shinsuke Nakamura will not be satisfied until he relieves Seth Rollins of that burden. The burden being, of course, the World Heavyweight Championship. And I thought this was excellent. Really good job of playing on something that's legit. Seth Rollins talked about it weeks ago. He talked about it again here in the promo that his response to this segment, that his back injury isn't something he wants to talk a lot about, even though he had talked about it in public before, that he has 2 fractures in his lumbar. And they've been there for about 4 years, and he's not sure how long he can continue to go at the level that he's been going. But it's all part of the gig. Nakamura trying to play head games, it's all part of the gig. But Nakamura, needs to be prepared to face him man to man if he's going to bring his family into it. And Nakamura isn't doing that. He's sneak attacking, and he's in a studio 1,000 miles away. He said next week he's going to give him an opportunity to prove that he's a man. He's going to stand in the middle of the ring, let the world sing his song, because he will not be hard to find. Simple storytelling between these two. It works. Now, I think that I said, what was this, last week, that they were going to try to defibrillate the career of Shinsuke Nakamura. And I have to say they successfully did so. I see signs of life. I look on Twitter and I see people actually excited and interested in Shinsuke Nakamura for the first time since 2019. So they did a good job. Triple H, I have to give him some credit. As shitty as the rest of this show is, he did a good job of getting people to actually care about Shinsuke Nakamura versus Seth Rollins. Do they make the decision to put the title on Nakamura? I don't think so. I don't think so. It seemed like it should be the right time, but I don't think so. But the match is going to be a bit of a banger. And now we know that the psychology of the match, how it's going to go forward, and how Nakamura is going to target the back of Seth Rollins. So I thought this was great. Really great promo from both guys. Rollins is, still doing the laughing and gimmick and all the weird dressing, but he knows when to turn it down and to get serious. He turned it down against Matt Riddle, got a little bit serious. He never really turned it down versus Finn Balor and got serious. But now he's serious here. He's taking Nakamura as a serious threat. Because this is, Nakamura knowing about his back injury. So I'm very interested in this. I'm very interested in where they're going with this. This could be fun. And then, you know what? It might not be too much of a stretch to put the belt on Nakamura. It might not be too much of a stretch. I don't know. I wouldn't do it personally, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did do it. Okay. That was very good. The third match on the show, Rhea Ripley defeats Candice LeRae. This was very quick. It was like maybe 3 minutes. Candice LeRae taps out to whatever that move Rhea Ripley does, where she ties up their legs and swings them in the air and stuff. Raquel Rodriguez came ringside after the match and beat up Rhea Ripley. Then said that she is medically cleared and will get her championship match at Payback. So it's going to be Raquel Rodriguez versus Rhea Ripley at Payback for the Women's World Championship. Okay. They've been building for this for weeks. They've been building to this. And I don't think, despite all the time they put into it, that people are behind Raquel. I don't think they are. I think they're very, very into Rhea right now. And nobody else is hot or interesting at all. So, despite the fact that it seems like you've been put a lot of effort into Raquel, into building her up and making her something, that the crowd is simply just not there, And maybe it's because she doesn't have a character. She doesn't have a connection. You need to build a character and you need to build a connection. And they haven't done that in the time that she's been off. They just wanted people to feel sympathy for her because she's been attacked so many times by Rhea Ripley and injured. And it's hard for people to feel sympathy for folks that they are not connected with. You have to build the connection first, then you could do long injury angles and stuff. Sorry. That's just the nature of the beast. People only care about folks when folks are injured, when they care about them. And they don't really care about Raquel Rodriguez yet. And speaking of not caring, the lack of reaction for Candice LeRae was hilarious. It was funny. Pretty damn funny if you ask me. But again, she was brought back. They're doing nothing. They have women's tag team titles. I guess, they have a thing. Tommaso Ciampa, he did a promo where he's talking about always being this close. He didn't come back to be this close. He came back to be the guy. Then he said he's not here to play games. He's here to take over and become the game. And to be the change you want to be, you got to do it yourself. So he mentioned DIY again. Now, he's also been doing the very comedic "Where's My Best Friend" stuff, where he's been putting up stickers of "Where's Johnny Gargano." I'm glad they didn't do that on TV, because that changed his character. Like, his character right now is pretty intense, focused Tommaso Ciampa, which is what I like. So that's the guy that needs to be on TV. The internet guy where he's walking around with flyers like, where's Johnny? Yeah, you could leave that shit on the internet. Don't do it on television. But him sitting with the chair turned backwards, cutting a very serious promo, about how close he's been, and how the guys who have beaten him have gone on to do great things. I like that promo. And I still want Gunther versus Tommaso Ciampa. I want that. I don't think they did that in NXT, did they? I don't remember. If they did, please let me know, because I want to go back and watch it again. They did The Miz versus Akira Tozawa. The Miz cut a promo, said in 20 years, you're going to remember everything that he's done, that he was the main event WrestleMania, 2-time Grand Slam champion. But in 20 years, you're not going to remember anything about LA Knight. He's a human fidget spinner, a flash in the pan. LA Knight came out there during the match. He basically said that The Miz hasn't trended in 10 years and that kind of stuff. Basically, that Miz is old hat. And then Miz ended up losing to Akira Tozawa because he was distracted by LA Knight outside the ring. WWE once again, whoop, 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 whoop. When it comes to The Miz, he slips on a banana peel. Just a typical how WWE books heels. Instead of The Miz wiping his feet with Akira Tozawa, which he should have done, he instead loses. So now we're supposed to believe that he's going to fight LA Knight and stand a chance after he just got beat by Akira Tozawa. That's so weird. I hate when they book like that, but they do. They do it all the time, literally. All right, Becky Lynch, Trish Stratus. Oh my word, this thing seemed to go on forever, and I think that there is absolutely nothing left in this feud. I think people are so done with this that they just can't muster fucks to give anymore. I think that they're just sitting here squeezing and squeezing and squeezing, and the people are like, we got nothing left. We got nothing for you. So Becky Lynch comes out there and she's talking about her legacy too. And that it's not about how you make lemonade out of lemons, because she's still running that thing into the ground. She's even got a shirt with a lemon on it. It's kind of dumb. It's an inside joke between her and Triple H. Nobody else gets it. Stop doing that. Then she says that her legacy is going to be all about survival. How she always comes back. She's not unbeatable. She's unstoppable. It's not because she always wins. It's because she always fights. And this was supposed to be, kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Inspirational. But the crowd was just kind of like, okay, we don't care. We really don't care. Then Trish Stratus came out there, and things went from bad to worse. First, we got called U.S. assholes. U.S. a-holes. Then she turned heel on Quebec City and talked about the hockey team and all this kind of stuff. Then she says she intends to defeat Becky Lynch in the cage match and become the greatest of all time. Not just of this generation, but of every generation. Then she says she's never had a cage match. And is she scared? Does she look scared? And she admits that she is scared. She said she was scared when she was 24 and jumped into WWE's ring for the first time with no training, but she killed it. She was scared when she was the first main event of Raw, but she killed that too. And she said that they could keep putting her in tough situations. She's always going to find a way to shine. And she's been proving herself since her first day or something like that. And she's tired of proving herself. And she's going to prove herself one more time in this cage match that she's the greatest of all time. This was an awful promo segment. Both girls, just like their matches have lost steam, the promos have lost steam. The crowd was chanting some stuff in French. I have no idea what it was, but it's clear they did not care about this. They were talking over them. The crowd was trying to take over the show at this point. This was so bad. Bad! All right, this is not good. It's 90% not good. It's just, Becky Lynch ended up saying that her and Zoe Stark are going to have a Falls Count Anywhere match, I think next week. Again, nobody popped. Nobody cared. It was a disaster. What a disaster this is. Oh, they need to hurry up with this payback thing. Look, I'm so sorry. I don't know what it is. I like Trish Stratus, I really do, but I'm just thinking that nobody wants her to be a heel right now, and or either that or Becky Lynch is not the right opponent for her to be working with, because this Becky Lynch thing is not working. It's not, and Becky has lost quite a bit of punch since she turned babyface. Now, when she was big time Beck, she was actually still pretty good. I know a lot of people was aggravated by the big time Beck's angle because of the way she was dressing, and they didn't want her to be a heel and all this kind of stuff, but it had freshened her up. You know, she was doing something different. She felt fresh. Now she's back to being the man, and it's like people are kind of over it. Like, it was nice when she was the underdog babyface in 2018 and 2019 to a degree. But since she's been on top for 3 years, or it's been 5 years now, I think, that she's been a top female talent, it doesn't have the same kick. It doesn't have the same punch. You know, it needs to be adjusted. And I don't think they made those adjustments. And she even coming out here cutting promos like she's the underdog in this match. You know, not because I'm unbeatable, but because I always fight. It's like, well, you're the favorite. Everybody expects you to fight Trish Stratus and win, because Trish Stratus is a yoga teacher and she's 50 years old. Like, we expect you to kick her ass. You're not the underdog here. So it made sense when she was the underdog against Ronda Rousey or Charlotte or something like that, or she was outnumbered, but she's outnumbered here. But it's not sticking the same way, you know? And I think a lot of this comes from when people have a great deal of sympathy for you and they launch you to the main event. Once they get what they want, it becomes difficult to see why they would continue to support you. You know? It's like they supported Becky because they were sick of Charlotte. But now they don't have the option of being sick of Charlotte on Raw. Becky's the top star on Raw. But now they're sick of fucking Becky. So now they're like, okay, well, we're not sure anymore. But they don't have anybody else. Well, a lot of them have gravitated over to Rhea Ripley. You know, and if Becky's not wrestling Rhea, you know, she's wrestling Trish. And people are kind of wishy-washy on Trish because they like her and her heel stuff hasn't been very strong. So there's plenty of reason to be wishy-washy there. There's just a lot of stuff going on and it's not working. The chemistry is not working here. Let's get through this cage match. Let's get through it. People want that to be the main event of the show. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, please. Beat it. I don't care about your women's lib, your feminism, or your brain rot. That match should open the show. That match should be the first match on the show. They can do their 10 minutes, 15 minutes in the cage, call it a fucking day. Get out of here, all right? It is not a main event. That match that they had on Raw was a week or so ago was awful. Their promo segments have not been good in a long time. People are not that interested in this feud anymore. It's been going on for too long. Just like Judgment Day, the thing about long-term stories is if you can keep it interesting and keep it fresh, you can go 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. Like the Bloodline can go over a year. It's been going for 3 years because you can do interesting things in that time. The Trish Stratus Becky Lynch thing has been the same since Becky Lynch turned heel. Since Saudi Arabia, which was like 2 or 3 months ago. It's been the same thing. You know, there has been no extra twists, no extra turns, no extra, people popping in and out. Which is why I said, like, maybe it should have been a thing where Trish Stratus had more than one person. That, okay, Zoe Stark is on her side, but then somebody else popped up. And now that person's with Trish too. And then you have somebody join Becky's side, and you could have a tag team match or a 6-woman tag to spice things up. Then you could have maybe bring Lita back, to do the tag team thing or whatever. There's a lot of little things that you could have done in this time frame that would have made it far more interesting and far more engaging. But with these two just cutting promos on each other like they hate one another, and yet they sometimes stand in the ring like they stood in the ring tonight without touching. You know, they talked a lot of shit about each other, but they didn't touch one another. You know, but you would think we're beyond talking at this point. You guys have been fighting for 4 fucking months. It's been 4 months. It's been since April. They've been doing this. So your story can be straightforward, but you have to realize when you're dragging it, this is dragging. All right. They are probably better off doing this cage match on Raw and calling it a day. I'm really interested in what happens after this. Is this going to be Trish Stratus' big goodbye? She's going to get to work the cage match that she's always wanted to work, and then she's done now at the end of her contract. We wrap it up for her. Then what's next for Becky? You know, what's next for Zoe? Like, these people really need something right now. Becky is on life support. Like, she's the regular roster person here, so she's basically on life support. Trish Stratus can disappear for 4 weeks, come back as a babyface, and everybody be like, yay, I love Trish. But Becky Lynch, don't know if that's going to be able to work for her. She's going to need a complete turnaround in terms of when she's done with Trish. She's going to need to work with somebody hot. She's probably going to need to work with Rhea, you know. And I would say if you can save that for Rumble, save it for Rumble. But she needs to work with somebody hot. And they don't have anybody else hot right now. And it's been very unfortunate, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done with this whole Becky Lynch, Trish Stratus thing. It's been the shits. Next, they did a Piper Niven vignette because nobody knows who she is, especially if you watched this show recently. She ain't been on it. But then they had a match between Piper Niven and Chelsea Green versus KC Squared, Casey Catanzaro, and Kaden Carter. Piper Niven just comes in and squashes the small girl and wins. Okay, exactly what it should have been. But what a waste of time. So they're putting over Piper Niven as she's forcefully Chelsea Green's partner. And, okay, look, I would have preferred Piper Niven be an opponent for Becky Lynch and for her to be positioned much like the Bam Bam Bigelow of the women's division or something like that. But they don't know how to book big people anymore in WWE or AEW. I mean, again, how could you have a guy like a Bronson Reed who has a pretty unique build, even though he's kind of short? You know, he's kind of agile. You should have been able to get that guy over pretty quickly. You know, there's no reason Piper Niven shouldn't be over right now. She's been on the roster for a long time, at least 2 years. And people, again, that's like the Viking Raiders. They look at her like they've never seen her before. You know, she's like, huh? Everybody's just like, who's that? I've never heard it. What's a Piper Niven? Who is Piper Niven? It's like, yeah, we know who the fuck Piper Niven is. Come on. They showcased her crushing very small women. Okay, but, you know, not really all that impressive. It's a good start, though, you know. But since they don't have much of a strong women's division, why would it be, you know, some people who could have been contenders? Like, it seemed like a perfect time to use some jobbers, you know, where Piper could have just crushed them and maybe stacked them on top of each other and, you know, crushed them again and all this kind of stuff. Just did a whole bunch of terrible things. Go full King Kong Bundy where she's fighting 3 people by herself and all that kind of stuff. You know, the old Andre the Giant, you know. She's in tag team handicap matches and she's stacking people on top of each other and crushing them. She'd get over huge if she did stuff like that. But they're not thinking about that anymore, which is what, you know, when you have big talents like Piper and like Bronson Reed, that's what you should be doing. You should be having them fighting maybe one job guy. He crushes them in a short amount of time. And then he says, I want competition. Give me more competition. And then you come out next week as 2 guys. And then he beats them both. short order. Then 3 guys the next week. You could do the same thing with Piper Niven. It would have worked, you know. But instead, they're going to put her in a comedy team with Chelsea Green, which works because Chelsea Green can do comedy. But if Piper Niven's only character gimmick is going to be that I'm the tag team champion, I'm not. Watch that British Bulldog. I don't know. I can't do a Scottish accent on purpose. But she's now forcefully a tag team champion. Okie dokie. I don't care. I really don't care. You know, if you don't care, then I don't care. And that's just kind of how it's going to be, man. Raw was dreadful. Dreadful show. Once again, this show literally has had the same main event for like 6 months. This shit sucks. You know, like whoever is booking this show is booking this show clearly in their sleep. And they're repeating themselves. Hey, who wants to watch? It's like, oh yeah, 2 weeks ago it was Damian Priest and Finn Balor versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. This week, it's Finn Balor and Damian Priest versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. It's a completely different match. It's like you just said the names in different orders. Bitch, it's the same fucking match. It's the same people. It's the same shit. Trish and Becky, it's the same shit every single time. Do something different. I beg of you. You won't, though. It sucks. Feature some new people on this fucking show. Get rid of the fucking Viking Raiders, for Christ's sake. They're not salvageable. Now, you've done a good job of saving Chad Gable and Shinsuke Nakamura. I'll give you credit for that. But the Viking Raiders, forget it. There's too much sludge in that corpse. You can't dig out enough. You can't dig an air hole in that corpse, all right? It's dead. It's over. Just bite the bait and send the motherfuckers home. I can't believe that. Like, we got articles about they sent Nikki Cross home because creative has nothing for her, and they sent Madcap Moss home because creative has nothing for him, and Emma too. It's like you can't find nothing for a young athlete like Madcap Moss to do. You can't find something for him to do. You can't just send him to NXT. Like, we have to send him home and he does nothing. You know, like Nikki Cross, you can't find something for her to do. Like, it's at this point, it is not a we can't find nothing for you to do. It's a simple, we don't want to look for anything for you. All right? We don't care about you. Madcap Moss, again, is one of those guys that should have been in the conversation with Grayson Waller and Austin Theory as being a young, and Braun Breaker, if we're being honest, a young WWE guy who's built, who the only problem is, how are we going to get him over? What kind of persona are we going to give him? They said, they tried to get him over with the heat, with the thing with Emma. It's like they barely put any fucking time or effort into that thing. You know, there was barely anything put into him and Emma. They just started appearing on screen together. And he started trying to motivate her, and she tried to motivate him, and they both went out losing, then they both disappeared. You didn't really do anything. You didn't put any effort in to get any of these people over. It's like you showed them on TV 3 times and then pulled them. You know, induce share. Now, you actually have tried with them quite a bit of times with the vignettes and everything, and it's just not working. The Viking Raiders is just not working. But some people you haven't even tried with yet, you know? And it's a shame, like, where did MVP go? Why all of a sudden Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander can't get on TV? Like, I don't understand why Raw has to look the same every week. I just don't get it. It sucks. It sucks the hard way. And it's the shits. You know, I feel real bad about it too. Because Raw used to be a show you used to look forward to, at least to some degree. But now it's an absolutely dreadful fucking show built around the same 5 fucking people. 7 people, I should say. You have to count all of Judgment Day, which is 4 people. I guess they added JD McDonough, but you know, I'm not going up to 10. There's not more than 10 people that's featured on this show every week. You know? And when you don't have any progress in your character work, or when your storyline doesn't have any twists or turns in it, It's just a flat fucking line. That sucks, bro. And Raw sucks. And it's very frustrating. But let me know what you guys think. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.
Old non-aggression. Once that lesson sets in, you'll see a session, but you got an affection for no progression.